I always thought the worst thing I'd ever hear was, "We need to talk." Turns out it wasn't cheating because there were no feelings involved. My name is Jake Morrison, and I'm a 36-year-old IT support manager for a mid-sized tech company in Hartford, Connecticut. Nothing glamorous about debugging server crashes and explaining to executives why they can't use password 123 for everything, but it pays well enough to cover rent, groceries, and my girlfriend Emma's part-time paralegal lifestyle. Emma Rodriguez, well, she kept her name when we moved in together 3 years ago, works 20 hours a week at Hartwell & Associates, a downtown law firm that specializes in personal injury cases. She's always talked about going back to school for her law degree, but somehow never quite gets around to filling out the applications. I've been supporting that dream, along with everything else. Our apartment is a decent 2-bedroom in West Hartford, nothing fancy but clean and comfortable. I cover the $1,800 monthly rent, plus utilities that run another $200. Emma's car, a red Honda Civic she's obsessed with, is under my insurance policy because it saves us money. My money, technically, since I pay that $180 monthly bill too. Groceries, streaming services, date nights, all me. Emma contributes maybe $400 a month from her part-time work, which barely covers her shopping habits. But I didn't mind. Love makes you do stupid things. And I was deeply, stupidly in love. It was a Thursday night in October when everything changed. Emma was in the shower, singing some pop song off-key like she always did. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, once, twice, then a rapid series of notifications that made the whole phone dance across the wood surface. "Emma, your phone's going crazy," I called toward the bathroom. "Just check it," she yelled back over the running water. "Might be Sophie about tomorrow's lunch." Sophie Chen was Emma's best friend since college, a social media manager who documented every meal, every outfit, every thought on Instagram. They'd been planning some elaborate brunch for weeks. I picked up Emma's phone, expecting to see Sophie's usual stream of restaurant photos and outfit debates. Instead, I saw a name that made my stomach drop: David Martinez. David worked at Emma's law firm as a junior associate. I'd met him at a few office parties, tall, gym-obsessed guy who wore expensive suits and had the kind of confident handshake that lasted too long. Emma always described him as kind of a douche when his name came up in conversation. The preview text on her lock screen read, "Can't wait to feel you again tomorrow. Same hotel?" My hands went numb. I knew Emma's passcode, her birthday, which she'd never bothered to change, and I opened the phone with trembling fingers. The message thread went back months. Explicit photos, hotel confirmations, detailed descriptions of what they'd done and what they planned to do next. My 3-year relationship disintegrating in real time as I scrolled through weeks of betrayal. "God, Jake is so clueless," one message from Emma read. "He actually thanked me for working late yesterday. If only he knew I was screaming your name in that Marriott bed." David's response, "Poor guy. But hey, not our problem. This is just physical anyway, right? No feelings, just incredible intimacy." Emma, "Exactly. What he doesn't know won't hurt him. Besides, you're way better than he is. Jake's so predictable." I sat there on our bed, my bed since I'd bought it, reading message after message of casual cruelty. They weren't just having an affair, they were laughing at me, planning their next encounter while I paid for Emma's life, her car, her comfort. The shower turned off. I quickly closed the phone and set it back on the nightstand, my mind racing. Emma emerged from the bathroom in her usual post-shower routine, wrapped in the fluffy white towel I'd bought her for her birthday. "Everything okay?" she asked, noticing my expression. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd been planning to propose to, whose ring I'd been saving for. The woman who'd been sleeping with her coworker for 6 months while I paid her bills. "Fine," I said. "Sophie just wanted to confirm lunch tomorrow." Emma smiled and started getting dressed. "Good. I need girl time. Work's been so stressful lately." Work. Right. I watched her pull on pajamas, chattering about her day, about how David was being weird around the office, about how much she loved our life together. Every word felt like a knife. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there next to her, listening to her peaceful breathing, planning my next move, because there would be a next move. Emma thought she was playing some clever game, keeping her physical affair separate from our emotional relationship. She was about to learn that I could play games too, and I was much better at them than she thought. Friday morning arrived gray and cold, matching my mood perfectly. Emma bounced around the apartment getting ready for work, humming that same off-key tune from the night before. She kissed me goodbye like nothing had changed, told me she loved me, reminded me she'd be home late because of her lunch with Sophie. More lies. I knew from her text that she was meeting David at the Marriott downtown at 2 p.m., same as every Friday for the past month. I called in sick to work, something I never did, and spent the morning researching. Connecticut law, lease agreements, insurance policies, bank account procedures. If Emma wanted to play the no feelings involved game, I'd show her what that really looked like. By the time she came home that evening, I was ready. "Hey, baby," she said, dropping her purse by the door. "Sorry I'm so late. Sophie was being dramatic about her dating life again. You know how she gets." I was sitting on the couch, her phone in my hand. I'd retrieved it from her purse while she was hanging up her coat. "How was the Marriott?" I asked quietly. Emma froze. "What?" I held up her phone, the message thread with David open on the screen. I said, "How was the Marriott? Room 412, right? David's usual booking?" The color drained from Emma's face. She opened her mouth, closed it, then sat down heavily in the chair across from me. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. "Jake, I can explain." "Please do." My voice was calm, which seemed to unnerve her more than if I'd been yelling. It's not what you think." "Really?" "Because I think you've been sleeping with your coworker for 6 months while I pay for your entire life. Am I wrong?" Emma flinched at my language. I never talked like that, never raised my voice, never confronted anyone directly. I was the easygoing guy, the supportive boyfriend, the pushover. "Okay, yes, David and I have been involved. But Jake, you have to understand." "I have to understand what, exactly?" She took a shaky breath. "It's not cheating. Not really. It's just physical. There are no feelings involved. David doesn't mean anything to me. You're the one I love. You're the one I come home to. What David and I have is just intimacy. It's completely separate from us. If you found these messages, what would you do first?" I nodded slowly, processing her words. "No feelings involved?" "Exactly. You're my real relationship. David is just a physical release. It doesn't threaten what we have because there's no emotional connection." "I see." I stood up, still holding her phone. "So when you texted him that I was clueless and predictable, that was just physical?" Emma's eyes widened. "You read everything?" "Every word, including the part where you told him I was way worse in bed, and that you deserved better than settling for safe and boring." "Jake, I didn't mean..." "And when you sent him that photo of yourself in the lingerie I bought you for our anniversary, with the caption, 'Jake thinks this is for him, but it's really for you,' that was just physical too?" Emma was crying now, but I felt nothing. The man who would have comforted her, who would have blamed himself for not being enough, was gone. She'd killed him with her casual cruelty. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. But it doesn't have to change anything between us. I can end it with David. We can go back to how things were." "You're right," I said. "It doesn't have to change anything emotional between us." Hope flickered in her eyes. "Really?" "Absolutely. You've taught me something important tonight, Emma. You've shown me that feelings and actions can be completely separate, that you can love someone and still do whatever you want as long as there are no emotions involved." She nodded eagerly. "Yes, exactly. You understand." "I do understand, and I'm going to follow your example." "What do you mean?" I smiled, the first genuine emotion I'd felt since reading her texts. "You'll see, but don't worry. Just like with David, there won't be any feelings involved." Emma thought we were okay. Over the weekend, she was extra affectionate, extra attentive, clearly believing that her no feelings involved explanation had solved everything. She even suggested we plan a vacation together, maybe somewhere tropical for the holidays. I smiled and nodded and played the part of the understanding boyfriend. Meanwhile, I spent Saturday and Sunday making phone calls and researching logistics. Monday morning, I took a personal day from work. Emma left for the law firm at her usual time, kissing me goodbye and promising to bring home Thai food for dinner. She seemed relieved that I wasn't acting angry or suspicious. The moment her car pulled out of our parking lot, I was on the phone. First call, our landlord, Mrs. Patterson, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who owned 3 rental properties in West Hartford. "Mrs. Patterson, this is Jake Morrison from Unit 4B. I need to discuss removing someone from the lease agreement." "Oh, hello, Jake. Is everything all right?" "My girlfriend and I are separating. I need to know the process for having her removed from the lease while keeping my tenancy intact." "I'm sorry to hear that, dear. Let me pull up your file." I heard papers shuffling. "Actually, this is interesting. Looking at your lease, only you're listed as the primary tenant. Emma Rodriguez is listed as an approved occupant, but she's not legally bound to the lease terms." "Perfect. So if I wanted her to move out? You'd need to give her written notice. 30 days is standard for a breakup situation, though legally you could probably do it faster since she's not on the lease. Are you sure about this? You two always seemed happy. I'm sure. Can you email me the proper notice forms? Of course. I'll send them over this morning. Second call. My insurance company, Hartford Financial. I need to remove someone from my auto policy, effective immediately. Can I ask the reason for the removal? Relationship ended. She'll need to get her own coverage. I understand. What's the vehicle information for the car being removed? I gave them Emma's Honda information. The representative explained that Emma would receive a notification that her coverage was terminated and that she'd need to secure new insurance before driving the car again. When does this take effect? I can make it effective as of midnight tonight, so Tuesday morning she'll no longer be covered. Perfect. Third call, my bank, First National. I need to close a joint checking account and remove someone from my savings account. The process was more complex since Emma was a joint account holder, but the customer service representative explained that either party could close the joint account with proper identification. The savings account, which was primarily mine with Emma added as a beneficiary, was easier to modify. I'll need to come in with identification to finalize this. What are your hours today? We're open until 6 p.m. I should mention that closing the joint account will trigger notifications to all account holders. I understand. Fourth call, the credit card company for our shared Visa card. I need to remove an authorized user from my account. Can I ask who you'd like to remove? Emma Rodriguez. She's no longer authorized to use the account. I can do that immediately. She'll receive notification that her access has been terminated, and any cards in her name will be deactivated within 24 hours. By noon, I'd systematically removed Emma from every shared financial obligation we had. The lease situation was trickier. She wasn't legally bound to pay rent, but she also had no legal right to stay if I didn't want her there. I drove to the bank and spent an hour with a customer service representative, closing our joint checking account and transferring my direct deposit to a new individual account. The joint account had $3,200 in it, money I'd deposited from my paychecks over the past 2 months. I transferred it all to my new account. Emma had contributed maybe $300 of that total. The representative, a kind middle-aged woman named Carol, seemed concerned about the abrupt changes. Are you sure about closing everything at once? Sometimes couples work things out. I'm sure, I said, signing the final forms. Sometimes you discover that someone isn't who you thought they were. That evening, Emma came home with Thai food as promised, chattering about her day at the law firm. She seemed genuinely happy, probably relieved that I wasn't acting like a typical betrayed boyfriend. David was being weird again today, she said, unpacking containers of pad thai and green curry. I think he feels guilty about, I told him we talked and everything was fine. Everything is fine, I agreed, accepting the plate she handed me. We ate dinner like a normal couple. Emma talked about a case she was working on, some slip-and-fall lawsuit against a grocery store chain. I listened and asked appropriate questions, playing the part perfectly. She had no idea that in 12 hours, her entire financial world would collapse. Tuesday started normally enough. Emma's alarm went off at 7 a.m. She showered and got dressed for work, and we shared coffee and toast at our little kitchen table. She was in a great mood, talking about plans for the weekend, asking if I wanted to check out a new restaurant that had opened downtown. Sounds great, I said, buttering my toast. We should definitely do that. At 8:15, she grabbed her purse and keys, kissed me goodbye, and headed out to her car. I watched from the window as she got in the Honda and tried to start it. The car started fine. The insurance cancellation wouldn't prevent that, but I knew that by the end of the day, driving it would be illegal. At 9 a.m., my phone rang. Emma. Jake, something weird happened. I got an email saying my car insurance was canceled. There must be some mistake. Huh, that is weird. Maybe call them and sort it out? I will. I'm at work now, but I'll call during lunch. It's probably just a computer error. At 11:30, my phone rang again. Jake, this isn't a computer error. They said you called and removed me from the policy. What's going on? I was at my desk at the tech company, debugging a server issue that had crashed our email system. My coworkers were running around stressed, but I felt perfectly calm. I did call them, I said quietly. What? Why would you do that? Because it's my insurance policy, Emma. I pay for it. I decided you should get your own coverage. But we're together. We share expenses. Actually, I've been thinking about that. I pay the insurance, you get the benefit. I pay the rent, you get a place to live. I pay for groceries, you get fed. It's not really sharing if only one person contributes, is it? There was a long pause. Jake, what's this really about? Are you still upset about David? Because I explained that no feelings involved, right? Well, I'm just applying the same principle. No feelings, just practical decisions. This is crazy. We'll talk about this when I get home. She hung up. I went back to fixing the email server. At 1 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text. My credit card was declined at lunch. What the hell is happening? I didn't respond. I was in a meeting about upgrading our security software. At 3 p.m., another text. Called the bank. Our checking account is closed. Jake, call me back right now. At 4 p.m. I'm coming home. We're going to figure this out. At 5:30, I heard Emma's key in the door. I was sitting on the couch, watching the news, when she stormed into the apartment. What the hell is wrong with you? She shouted, throwing her purse down. You closed our bank account. You canceled my car insurance. You canceled my credit card. I muted the TV and looked at her calmly. I applied your philosophy. No feelings involved, just practical decisions. This is insane. You can't just cut me off from everything. Why not? You said what you do with David doesn't affect our relationship because there are no feelings involved. So I made some decisions that don't involve feelings either. Emma was pacing now, her face red with anger and panic. This is completely different. How? Because we live together. We share expenses. We're a couple. Are we? Because according to your texts, I'm just the clueless guy who pays for things while you have amazing intimacy with David. That doesn't sound like a couple to me. She stopped pacing and stared at me. You're punishing me. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just removing the feelings from our financial arrangements, the same way you remove feelings from intimacy. You taught me that actions and emotions can be completely separate. Jake, please. I can't afford the rent here by myself. I can't afford car insurance on my part-time salary. What you need is not my problem anymore. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded paper. This is a 30-day notice to vacate. You're not on the lease, so legally I can ask you to leave. Emma took the paper with shaking hands. You're evicting me? I'm ending our cohabitation arrangement. No feelings involved, just a practical decision. She read the notice, tears starting to flow. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my concern. You're an adult with a job. Figure it out. But I love you. We can work this out. I stood up and looked at her, really looked at her. 3 days ago, those tears would have broken my heart. I would have apologized, taken her back, blamed myself for not being enough. Now I felt nothing. You love me? I asked. The same way you loved me while you were texting David about how much better he was in bed? The same way you loved me while you were using my money to buy lingerie for another man? That was different. That was just physical. No feelings involved. I remember. I picked up my keys from the coffee table. I'm going out for dinner. When I come back, I'd like you to have decided whether you're going to find somewhere else to stay tonight or if you need the full 30 days to figure things out. Jake, wait. But I was already heading for the door. As I left, I could hear her sobbing behind me. No feelings involved, just like she'd taught me. I drove to Murphy's Tavern, a dive bar near my office where I sometimes went with coworkers for happy hour. The place was mostly empty on a Tuesday night, just a few regulars watching baseball on the mounted TVs and a bartender named Frank who'd been working there for 20 years. You look like you need something strong, Frank said as I sat down at the bar. Whiskey, make it a double. Frank poured the drink and slid it across the bar. Rough day? You could say that. I just destroyed my 3-year relationship in about 15 minutes. She cheat on you? I looked at him, surprised. How'd you know? Seen that look before. Guys come in here all the time after finding out their wives or girlfriends were stepping out. You got that particular kind of anger, the cold kind. That's usually the worst kind of betrayal. I sipped my whiskey, feeling the burn. She told me it wasn't really cheating because there were no feelings involved, just physical. Frank snorted. And you bought that? For about 10 seconds. Then I decided to show her what no feelings involved actually looks like. What did you do? I told him about the insurance, the bank accounts, the credit cards, the eviction notice. Frank listened without judgment, occasionally nodding or refilling my glass. Damn, he said when I finished. That's some cold-blooded revenge right there. Is it revenge if I'm just applying her own logic? Son, that's the best kind of revenge. Using someone's own bullshit against them. Frank wiped down a glass with his bar towel. What's she going to do now? Not my problem anymore. My phone had been buzzing with texts from Emma, but I hadn't looked at them. Around 9 p.m., it started ringing. Emma's name on the screen. I declined the call. It rang again immediately, declined again. Then Sophie's name appeared. Emma had called in reinforcements. Hello, Sophie. Jake, what the hell is wrong with you? Sophie's voice was shrill with indignation. Emma is crying her eyes out. She told me what you did. I'm sure she did. What exactly did she tell you? That you found out about David and you went completely psycho. You canceled her insurance, closed her bank accounts, and you're trying to kick her out of her apartment. Her apartment? Interesting. Did she mention that I'm the only one on the lease? Or that I pay 100% of the rent? That doesn't matter. You can't just abandon someone you've been with for 3 years. Why not? She abandoned our relationship 6 months ago when she started sleeping with David. I'm just catching up. Sophie was quiet for a moment. She made a mistake, Jake. People make mistakes, but what you're doing is cruel. What I'm doing is exactly what she taught me to do. Remove feelings from the equation and make practical decisions. This isn't you. You're not this kind of person. You're right. The old Jake would have begged her to stop seeing David. He would have blamed himself for not being exciting enough, romantic enough, good enough. He would have tried harder to win back a woman who was laughing at him behind his back. Emma wasn't laughing at you. Actually, she was. I read the text, Sophie, all of them, including the ones where she called me pathetically grateful for her attention and said I was too stupid to realize how out of my league she was. Another pause. She was just venting. She didn't mean those things. Maybe, but she meant them enough to send them to another man while I was paying for her life. So now she can pay for her own life. Jake, please. She needs help. She can't afford to live on her own. Then maybe she should have thought about that before she decided to have an affair. Or maybe David can help her out. I hear they have great physical chemistry. I hung up and turned off my phone. Frank had been listening to my side of the conversation while pretending to clean glasses. Friend of the girlfriend? He asked. Best friend, trying to guilt me into taking Emma back. They always do that. Make you out to be the bad guy for having standards. Frank shook his head. You did the right thing, son. Woman like that, she'll just do it again if you take her back. I finished my whiskey and paid my tab. When I got back to the apartment around 10 p.m., Emma's car was gone. Most of her clothes were gone too, along with her laptop and some personal items. There was a note on the kitchen counter. I'm staying with Sophie for a few days while I figure things out. We need to talk about this like adults. What you're doing isn't fair, and you know it. I love you, and I know you love me too. Don't let your pride destroy what we have. Emma. I crumpled up the note and threw it in the trash. What we had was destroyed the moment she decided I was too stupid to deserve honesty. I was just cleaning up the wreckage. The rest of the week passed quietly. Emma texted me a few times, asking if we could meet for coffee to talk things through rationally. I didn't respond. She called twice. I sent both calls to voicemail without listening to the messages. Friday afternoon, my phone rang at work. Unknown number. Jake Morrison. Mr. Morrison, this is David Martinez from Hartwell & Associates. I leaned back in my desk chair, interested despite myself. Hello, David. To what do I owe the pleasure? Look, I think we need to talk. About Emma, about this whole situation. Do we? I can't imagine what we'd have to discuss. You're destroying her life over a mistake. She's a good person who made a bad decision. I was quiet for a moment, processing the sheer audacity of Emma's affair partner calling to lecture me about morality. David, can I ask you something? Sure. When you were sleeping with my girlfriend in hotel rooms that I was indirectly paying for, did you think she was making a bad decision then? That's different. How? We never meant for anyone to get hurt. It was just physical. Emma loves you, man. What we had was just intimacy. Right. No feelings involved. She explained that to me. I stood up and walked to the window of my office, looking out at the Hartford skyline. Tell me, David, now that Emma needs a place to stay and someone to pay her bills, are you stepping up? After all, you two had such great physical chemistry. It's not like that. It was never about a relationship. I see. So you were happy to sleep with her when it was convenient and consequence-free, but now that she actually needs something from you, you're nowhere to be found. Look, I didn't call to argue with you. I called because Emma is falling apart. She can't afford her own place, she's crashing on friends' couches, she's talking about moving back in with her parents in New Jersey. And this is my problem, because you're supposed to love her. You were together for 3 years. David, let me explain something to you. Emma taught me that love and actions are completely separate things. She loved me while betraying me. She loved me while mocking me. She loved me while planning her next hotel visit with you. So I'm loving her while removing my financial support. No feelings involved, just like she showed me. You're being vindictive. I'm being practical. Emma is an adult with a college degree and a job. If she can't support herself on her paralegal salary, she should find a better job or a roommate or a cheaper place to live, like every other adult in America. She's not like other people. She's not used to struggling. And there it was. The truth that David probably didn't even realize he'd spoken. You're right, I said. She's not used to struggling because I made sure she never had to. I paid for her comfort, her security, her lifestyle. And while I was doing that, she was with you, calling me clueless and predictable. She didn't mean, David, I'm going to stop you right there. I've read every text message between you two. I know exactly what she meant, and now she's learning what life looks like when the clueless, predictable guy stops paying for everything. I could hear David breathing on the other end of the line. What do you want from me? He asked finally. Nothing. I don't want anything from you. You and Emma deserve each other. Two people who think consequences are for other people. The difference is, you're about to learn that actions have consequences whether you plan for them or not. What's that supposed to mean? But I'd already hung up. That evening, I was at Murphy's Tavern again, having become something of a regular over the past week. Frank was working his usual shift, and the place was busier than Tuesday, a mix of office workers unwinding from the week and regulars who treated the bar like a second home. You're looking better, Frank observed, pouring my usual whiskey. More relaxed. I feel better. Turns out cutting toxic people out of your life is pretty liberating. The girlfriend's still trying to get back together? Her and her friends. Even her affair partner called me today to tell me I was being too harsh. Frank laughed, a short bark of amusement. The guy she was cheating with called to defend her? That takes some balls. Right? Apparently I'm supposed to forgive and forget because it was just physical, and she's not used to struggling. Not used to struggling, Frank repeated. Jesus, these people live in a different world. My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. This is Emma's mom. We need to talk. I showed Frank the text. He whistled low. The parents are getting involved. That's escalation. Should I respond? Depends. You ready for the guilt trip of a lifetime? I thought about it. Emma's parents, Robert and Linda Rodriguez, were nice enough people. I'd met them several times over the years, had dinner at their house in Princeton, spent a Christmas morning opening presents in their living room. They'd always treated me well, but they'd also raised Emma with all her entitlement and casual cruelty. I typed back, "What about?" The response came quickly. Emma told us what happened. This is beneath you, Jake. She made a mistake, but destroying her life won't fix anything. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed, "Did she tell you she's been having an affair for 6 months, or just that I found out about it?" No immediate response. Then, "She told us about her mistake, but you're supposed to be the mature one here." I am being mature. I'm making adult decisions about my own life and finances. She has nowhere to go. She has parents in Princeton, a job, and friends. She has options. You're breaking up a 3-year relationship over one mistake? I finished my whiskey and ordered another before responding. She broke up the relationship when she decided to have an affair. I'm just filing the paperwork. My phone rang immediately. Emma's mother. Hello, Linda? Jake, honey, what's going on? Emma is beside herself. She's talking about moving back home, leaving her job, starting over. This isn't like you. Linda Rodriguez had always been kind to me, treating me like a son-in-law even though Emma and I weren't married. She was a retired elementary school teacher, soft-spoken and gentle, the kind of woman who saw the best in everyone. Linda, what exactly did Emma tell you about why we broke up? She said she made a mistake with a coworker, but that it didn't mean anything. She said you found out and you're punishing her by cutting off all financial support. Did she tell you that the mistake lasted 6 months? That they were meeting in hotels every week? That she sent him explicit photos while telling him I was too stupid to figure out what was happening? Silence on the other end. Linda? She said it was a brief thing, a moment of weakness. It wasn't. I have months of text messages proving it wasn't. Emma wasn't weak, Linda. She was deliberate. She planned every encounter, lied to my face every day, and mocked me to her affair partner. Oh, Jake. Linda's voice was small now. I didn't know. Emma is 28 years old with a college degree and a job. The fact that she can't support herself isn't my fault or my responsibility. I've been subsidizing her lifestyle for 3 years while she treated me like a fool. But you love her. I loved who I thought she was. That person doesn't exist. After I hung up, Frank refilled my glass without being asked. Parents? He guessed. Mother, trying to guilt me into taking Emma back. They always think their little girls are innocent victims, even when they're grown women who know better. I sipped my whiskey, thinking about Linda's disappointed voice. It hurt, losing her good opinion, but not enough to change my mind. Emma had made her choices. Now she could live with the consequences. 2 weeks after Emma moved out, I was settling into my new routine. The apartment was quieter, cleaner, and significantly cheaper to maintain. I'd rearranged the furniture, bought some new books, and started cooking actual meals instead of ordering takeout every night. I was learning to enjoy solitude. Saturday morning, I was at the gym, a small boxing club downtown where I'd been training for the past year. It was nothing fancy, just a converted warehouse with heavy bags, speed bags, and a ring where local fighters sparred. The owner, Tony Ricci, was a former Golden Gloves champion who'd opened the place to keep kids off the streets. I was working the heavy bag, focusing on my footwork and combinations, when I heard familiar voices near the entrance. Emma, Sophie, and 2 other women I recognized from Emma's social circle. "This is pathetic," Sophie was saying loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Stalking your ex-boyfriend at his gym." "I'm not stalking him," Emma replied, but her voice was shaky. "I just want to talk to him like an adult." I continued hitting the bag, pretending I hadn't noticed them. But Tony had, and he wasn't pleased. "Ladies, this is a private gym. Members only." "We're not here to work out," Sophie said in her most entitled voice. "We just need to talk to someone." "Then talk to them outside. This isn't a coffee shop." I stopped hitting the bag and turned around. Emma looked terrible, thinner than usual, dark circles under her eyes, wearing clothes I didn't recognize, probably borrowing from friends since her wardrobe had been mostly funded by my credit cards. "Hello, Emma." "Jake?" She stepped forward, ignoring Tony's disapproving stare. "Can we please talk? Privately?" "We can talk here. These are my friends." I gestured to Tony and the handful of other guys who were working out, all of whom had stopped what they were doing to watch the drama unfold. "This is embarrassing." "For who?" Emma's friends had arranged themselves behind her like a support squad. Sophie was glaring at me with undisguised hatred. The other 2, Jessica and Maria, I thought their names were, looked uncomfortable but determined to support their friend. "For both of us," Emma said. "Jake, this has gone on long enough. I made a mistake. I admitted it. I apologized. But what you're doing is cruel and excessive." "What am I doing?" "You know what you're doing. You've cut me off from everything. I can't afford my own place. I can't afford car insurance. I'm sleeping on couches and borrowing money from friends. So get a better job, or a second job, or a roommate." "It's not that simple." "Why not? Millions of people support themselves on entry-level salaries. You have a college degree and work experience. Figure it out." Sophie stepped forward, her face red with anger. "You're being an asshole, Jake. Emma made one mistake, and you're destroying her entire life over it." I looked at Sophie. Really looked at her. Designer handbag, expensive shoes, manicured nails. She worked in social media marketing and lived in a trendy downtown loft that probably cost twice what I paid for my apartment. "Sophie, can I ask you something?" "What?" "If Emma's situation is so tragic, why don't you help her? You 2 are best friends, right? Let her move in with you permanently. Help her pay for car insurance. Cover her expenses until she gets back on her feet." Sophie's mouth opened and closed. "That's not... I have my own life." "Right. So you want me to support your friend, but you won't. Interesting. That's different. You were her boyfriend." "Were. Past tense. I'm not anymore." Emma was crying now, the kind of desperate tears that used to make me drop everything to comfort her. Now they just made me tired. "Jake, please. I love you. I know I screwed up, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through it." "Emma, answer me honestly. If I hadn't found those text messages, would you have stopped seeing David?" She hesitated. Yes. Eventually." "When?" "I don't know. Soon." "That's not an answer. Would you have stopped this week, this month, this year?" "I don't know. Maybe not right away, but eventually I would have realized it was wrong." "So you would have kept sleeping with him, kept lying to me, kept spending my money while mocking me behind my back until you eventually got bored or he found someone else." "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that." I unwrapped my hands and grabbed my water bottle. "Emma, you didn't make a mistake. You made hundreds of deliberate choices over 6 months. You chose to start the affair. You chose to continue it. You chose to lie about it every single day. Those weren't mistakes. They were decisions. People make bad decisions. That doesn't mean you throw away 3 years. You threw away 3 years the moment you decided I wasn't worth being honest with." Tony had heard enough. Ladies, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is a place of business, not a therapy session. We're not done talking, Sophie said defiantly. Yes, you are. Tony was a small man, but he had the kind of quiet authority that came from years of dealing with aggressive people. Out, now. Emma's friends reluctantly started moving toward the door, but Emma hung back. Jake, please, just think about it. Think about what we had. I have thought about it. What we had was me paying for everything while you lied to my face. I'm much happier without that arrangement. You don't mean that. I absolutely mean it. Emma, you taught me something valuable. You taught me that I was settling for someone who didn't respect me, didn't value me, and didn't deserve me. So thank you. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. I smiled. The first genuine smile I'd felt in weeks. No, Emma. The biggest mistake of my life was thinking you were worth 3 years of my time and money, but I'm not making that mistake anymore. As they left, I could hear Sophie's voice echoing in the parking lot. He's lost his mind. The old Jake would never have acted like this. She was right. The old Jake was gone. And good riddance. 3 months after Emma moved out, I was a different person. Not bitter or angry, just clearer about what I wanted and what I wouldn't tolerate. I'd gotten a promotion at work, partly because I was no longer distracted by relationship drama, and partly because I'd started taking on additional responsibilities. The extra $800 a month felt like a fortune when I wasn't supporting another adult's lifestyle. I'd also started dating again, though casually. A few coffee dates, a couple of dinners, nothing serious. It was refreshing to meet women who paid for their own drinks and didn't expect me to subsidize their existence. One Thursday evening in January, I was at Murphy's Tavern with some coworkers, celebrating the successful launch of a new software system we'd been working on for months. The place was busier than usual, filled with the after-work crowd and a group celebrating someone's birthday. I was at the bar ordering another round when I felt a tap on my shoulder. Jake? I turned around to see David Martinez, looking significantly worse than the last time I'd encountered him. He'd lost weight, his usually perfect hair was disheveled, and his expensive suit had been replaced with jeans and a wrinkled button-down shirt. Oh, David, you look like hell. Can I buy you a drink? I think we should talk. I glanced back at my coworkers, who were deep in conversation about weekend plans. Sure, but you're buying. We found a small table in the corner, away from the main crowd. David ordered a beer, and I got another whiskey. So, I said once the waitress left, how's life treating you? David stared into his beer. Not great, actually. I got fired. Sorry to hear that. What happened? Emma happened. He looked up at me with something that might have been regret. After you two broke up, she started, I don't know, getting clingy, wanting to make our thing more serious. I told her that wasn't what I wanted, that it had always been just physical. Ah, and she didn't take that well? She lost it. Started showing up at my apartment, calling me constantly, making scenes at work. She told our boss that I'd been harassing her, that I'd pressured her into the affair by threatening her job. I raised my eyebrows. And your boss believed her? At first, no. But then she produced text messages that made it look like I was the aggressor. Messages where I was asking her to meet me at hotels, telling her how much I wanted her, talking about what we'd done together. Those were real messages, though, right? Yeah, but she left out all the context. All her responses, all the times she initiated contact, all the messages where she was talking about how much she enjoyed it. She made it look like I was pressuring her into intimacy and she was just going along with it to protect her job. I sipped my whiskey, processing this information. So, you got fired for harassment. Fired and blacklisted. No law firm in the city will hire me now. Emma's story is that she was an innocent victim who got manipulated by a predatory colleague and that she only stayed quiet about it because she was afraid for her job. And now? Now I'm working at an insurance company in West Haven, making half what I used to make, and living in a studio apartment because my reputation is destroyed. David finished half his beer in one long swallow. I called you because I wanted to apologize. For what? For everything. For the affair, for calling you vindictive, for not understanding what kind of person Emma really was. I leaned back in my chair, studying David's face. He looked genuinely miserable, which I found more satisfying than I probably should have. David, can I ask you something? When you were sleeping with Emma, did you think about me at all? Did you consider that you were helping her betray someone who trusted her? Honestly, no. I thought about how hot she was, how good the intimacy was, how much fun it was to have something secret and exciting. I didn't think about you as a real person. And now? Now I realize that Emma doesn't actually care about anyone but herself. When I was useful to her, when I was giving her excitement and validation, I was her favorite person. The moment I stopped being useful, I became the enemy. She threw you under the bus to save herself. Completely. And the worst part is, I can't even fight it because technically I did send those messages. I did ask her to meet me at hotels. The fact that she was enthusiastic about it doesn't matter if she's not admitting to that part. We sat in silence for a moment, watching the crowd around us laugh and celebrate. You want to know the really screwed up part? David continued. She called me last week. Wanted to know if we could work things out. Apparently she's been telling people that we were in love, that we were planning to be together once she left you, and that I broke her heart by abandoning her. What did you tell her? I told her that if I never saw her again, it would be too soon, and that if she ever contacts me again, I'll file a restraining order. I finished my whiskey and signaled for another. David, I appreciate the apology, but I have to ask, why are you telling me this? Because you were right about her, and because I wanted you to know that what happened to me, it's what she does. She finds people who are useful to her, she uses them until they're not useful anymore, and then she destroys them if they don't give her what she wants. And you think I should feel sorry for you? David shook his head. No, I think you should feel proud of yourself for getting out before she destroyed you too. After David left, I sat at the bar for another hour, thinking about Emma and the choices she'd made. Part of me felt vindicated. I'd been right about her character, and David's story proved it. But mostly, I just felt relieved. I'd dodged a bullet. If I hadn't found those text messages, if I'd married Emma like I'd been planning, she would have destroyed my life piece by piece. She would have kept taking and taking until there was nothing left, and then she would have moved on to the next victim. Frank was working that night, and he noticed my thoughtful mood. You look like a man who just learned something important, he said, refilling my glass. I just had a conversation with my ex-girlfriend's affair partner. Turns out she destroyed his life after I stopped being useful to her. And how does that make you feel? I considered the question seriously. Grateful. Grateful that I found out who she really was before I wasted any more of my life on her. That's the right attitude, son. Some people are just poison. The trick is recognizing them before they kill you. I raised my glass in a mock toast. To recognizing poison. Frank clinked his glass against mine. And to having the sense to stop drinking it. 6 months after our breakup, I ran into Emma at a Whole Foods in West Hartford. I was shopping for ingredients to make dinner for a woman I'd been seeing. Sarah, a nurse at Hartford Hospital who paid her own bills and had never asked me for anything beyond my company. I was in the produce section, comparing prices on bell peppers, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Jake? I turned around to see Emma pushing a shopping cart with maybe $20 worth of generic brand groceries. She looked older, tired, wearing clothes I didn't recognize, and no makeup. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail instead of the elaborate styles she used to spend an hour perfecting every morning. Hello, Emma. You look good. She managed a weak smile. Really good. Thank you. How are you doing? I'm managing. I got a full-time job at a different law firm. Just basic paralegal work, but it pays the bills. That's good. Where are you living now? I have a studio apartment in Hartford. It's small, but it's mine. She gestured to her cart. Learning to cook for myself. It's actually kind of fun. We stood there for a moment, two people who used to share a bed and a life, now making small talk like distant acquaintances. Jake, can I ask you something? Sure. Are you happy? I mean, really happy? I thought about the question. Was I happy? I was dating someone I genuinely liked and respected. I had money in the bank for the first time in years. I was sleeping well, eating better, and had started training for a local boxing tournament. My apartment was peaceful, my friends were supportive, and my work was satisfying. Yeah, I said. I really am. Are you? Emma's smile faltered. I'm getting there. It's been hard. Learning to support myself, dealing with what happened with David, losing most of our mutual friends. What happened with the friends? When they found out the whole story, about the affair, about David, about what I did, most of them stopped talking to me. Sophie and I aren't friends anymore. She said I was toxic and that she couldn't trust me. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Really? I considered lying, giving her some comforting platitude about how I wanted the best for her. But Emma and I were past the point of comfortable lies. Honestly, I'm sorry that you're lonely. I'm not sorry that people are holding you accountable for your choices. She nodded slowly. That's fair, I guess. Emma, can I ask you something now? Of course. Do you understand why I did what I did? Why I cut off all financial support instead of trying to work things out? She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the vegetables in her cart. At first, I thought you were being cruel, vindictive. I thought you were punishing me for making a mistake. She looked up at me. But living on my own these past few months, I think I understand now. What do you understand? That I wasn't really an adult. I was 28 years old, and I'd never had to support myself, never had to make hard choices about money, never had to deal with real consequences for anything. You were enabling me to stay a child. And now? Now I pay my own rent, buy my own groceries, make my own decisions. It's scary sometimes, but it's also, I don't know. It feels real in a way my life didn't before. I picked up a red bell pepper and added it to my cart. That's good, Emma, really. Jake, I need to tell you something. Okay. I'm sorry. Not just for the affair, but for how I treated you during the affair. The things I said about you to David, the way I took your support for granted, the way I lied to your face every day for months. You didn't deserve any of that. No, I didn't. And I need you to know that what David told people about me pressuring him, that wasn't true. I know he lost his job, and I know people think I'm some kind of victim, but that's not what happened. I wanted the affair as much as he did. I initiated it half the time. I was just as responsible as he was. Why are you telling me this? Because it's the truth, and because you deserve to hear the truth from me, even if it's 6 months too late. I looked at Emma, really looked at her. The entitled, manipulative woman who had betrayed me was still there, but there was something else now. Something that might have been genuine remorse, or at least genuine understanding of what she'd done. Thank you for telling me that. Are you seeing someone? I am. Is it serious? It might be. She's a good person, honest, independent, kind. She's everything I thought you were when we first got together. Emma flinched but nodded. I'm glad. You deserve someone who treats you well. So do you, Emma, but you have to be someone who treats people well first. I'm working on it. We said goodbye in the parking lot. Two people who had once planned a future together, now heading to separate cars, separate lives, separate worlds. As I drove home to cook dinner for Sarah, I felt something I hadn't expected. Closure. Emma was going to be okay. Not because someone was taking care of her, but because she was finally learning to take care of herself. And I was going to be okay too, because I'd learned to recognize my own worth and demand that others recognize it as well. The old Jake would have felt guilty about Emma's struggles, would have wondered if he'd been too harsh, too unforgiving. The new Jake understood that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is refuse to enable their worst impulses. Emma had needed to learn how to be an adult. I'd needed to learn how to respect myself. In the end, we'd both gotten what we needed, just not in the way either of us had expected. Epilogue. No feelings involved. 1 year after Emma and I broke up, I married Sarah in a small ceremony at her parents' house in Vermont. It was everything my relationship with Emma hadn't been: honest, equal, built on mutual respect rather than financial dependency. Sarah and I had split the cost of the wedding, split the cost of our honeymoon, split the cost of the down payment on our new house. She'd insisted on keeping her own bank account even after we got married, not because she didn't trust me, but because she valued her independence. I never want either of us to feel trapped by money, she'd said when we were discussing our financial arrangements. If we're together, it should be because we choose to be together, not because one of us can't afford to leave. It was a philosophy that would have been foreign to Emma, but it made perfect sense to me. 2 weeks after the wedding, I was cleaning out some old boxes when I found the folder of printed text messages between Emma and David that I'd saved as evidence during our breakup. I'd forgotten about them, but seeing them again brought back all the emotions of that terrible discovery. Sarah found me in the garage, staring at the papers. "What are those?" she asked. I told her about the messages, about the affair, about the months of lies and betrayal that had ended my previous relationship. "Do you want to keep them?" she asked. I thought about it. For a year, those messages had been proof of Emma's betrayal, evidence of my own naive trust, a reminder of how badly I'd misjudged someone I'd loved. But I didn't need proof anymore. I didn't need evidence. I didn't need reminders. "No," I said. "I don't think I do." Sarah and I fed the papers into our fireplace that night, watching 3 years of lies and 6 months of betrayal turn to ash. As the last page curled and blackened, I felt the final weight of my relationship with Emma lift from my shoulders. "Any regrets?" Sarah asked, curled up next to me on the couch. "About Emma? No. If she hadn't shown me who she really was, I never would have been free to find you." "About how you handled it. Some people would say you were pretty ruthless." I thought about Emma's tears, her desperate attempts to reconcile, the friends who'd called me cruel and vindictive. I thought about David's destroyed career, Sophie's lost friendship, the cascade of consequences that had followed my decision to withdraw all financial support. Emma told me that her affair wasn't cheating because there were no feelings involved, I said finally. Just physical, just meaningless, just intimacy. She thought she could separate actions from emotions, that she could betray me without it meaning anything as long as she didn't love David. But you couldn't separate them. No, for me, love means something. It means honesty, loyalty, respect. It means your actions match your words. Emma taught me that some people don't understand that, and that I can't build a life with someone who doesn't share my values. So when you cut her off financially, I was applying her own logic. She separated love from loyalty, so I separated love from support. She kept her feelings but lost my money. I kept my self-respect but lost my illusions about who she was. Sarah was quiet for a moment, watching the last flames die down in the fireplace. Do you think she learned anything from it? I think she learned that actions have consequences, even when you don't intend them to. I think she learned that other people's feelings matter, even when they're inconvenient. And I think she learned that being an adult means supporting yourself, not expecting other people to subsidize your choices. And what did you learn? I pulled Sarah closer, grateful for her warmth, her honesty, her independence. I learned that love without respect is just dependency. I learned that financial control is emotional control. And I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's worst behavior. Even if it hurts them? Especially if it hurts them. Pain is a teacher, Sarah. Emma needed to learn some hard lessons, and I needed to learn that I was worth more than what I was accepting. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire burn down to embers. Outside, snow was beginning to fall, covering our new house, our new life, our new beginning. I'm proud of you, Sarah said quietly, for standing up for yourself, for knowing your worth, for not letting her convince you that love means accepting betrayal. I'm proud of us, I replied, for building something honest, for choosing each other every day instead of just defaulting to each other. Later that night, as Sarah slept beside me in our bed, a bed we'd bought together, in a house we'd chosen together, with money we'd both earned, I thought about Emma's words from that terrible night a year ago. It wasn't cheating because there were no feelings involved. She'd been wrong, of course. Betrayal is betrayal, regardless of emotions. But in a strange way, she'd taught me something valuable about the relationship between feelings and actions. Love isn't just an emotion. It's a choice you make every day through your actions, your priorities, your respect for the person you claim to care about. Emma had claimed to love me while betraying me, while mocking me, while taking advantage of my trust and generosity. I'd learned to love Sarah by respecting her, supporting her dreams without subsidizing her irresponsibility, being honest even when it was difficult, choosing her happiness alongside my own. Emma had separated feelings from actions and called it love. I'd learned to align my feelings with my actions and discovered what love actually meant. In the end, she'd been right about one thing. There really had been no feelings involved in her affair. But there had been no feelings involved in my response either. Just clear-eyed recognition of reality and the self-respect to act accordingly. She taught me that lesson without meaning to, and I'd applied it without mercy. No feelings involved, just consequences. And in learning to live without her, I'd learned to live with myself.